Hey there, welcome back to another video. I am Rana, and today's topic is going to be, have you had an encounter with angelic beings? So here we go. Ready? I had an angel flash fly over me out of the corner of my room, synchronistic with an enchanting thought. The Archangel Gabriel. Let's see. All I know is that Michael is my strongest one. Every time I have pulled cards, he always pops up. Physically, I've never experienced him that I can recall. I know he's always chilling with me, though. And someone replies with, from my understanding, Michael is one of the strongest or strangest angels in general. Someone says, I want to see a seraphim. And they ask, why a seraphim? Because I find them amazing. But anyways, I can't see nothing. When I was a child, I used to see stuff, spirits, gnomes. But when I grew up, I stopped seeing this stuff. Like my sense to perceive, see, and hear in the occult world is closed. A few weeks ago, I had a really strange dream where I was able to see the occult world and their dimensions, like a protagonist of the movie Constantine. When I woke up exactly at 3:30 a.m., I was scared and covered in sweat. I don't know what it means, but it was so weird. I heard an angelic name that I've never encountered before. Gad Gadriel? I had to Google it, and sure enough, it is a real name. Spooked me out, though. I've never heard of that one. I had to look it up. I had Archangel Raphael visit me during a ritual healing bath. I didn't call upon him, but he showed himself to me in my mind's eye. I never related to the Christian pantheon, so I was very interested to see him, and it was definitely a healing experience. At first, he appeared as Gandalf the Grey, which is so funny, but I asked him to appear as himself, and he was beautiful. I didn't get much of a message from him, but since then I have been guided to make other healthier choices. Both my physical and mental health has improved. I've had a few, but the most profound happened when I was quite ill after I'd had my baby. So I've always believed in angels. I always pray to them and have shown themselves to me before the usual signs. Plus, I hear bells when they're near, sparks of light, and a few times they've appeared as images in the sky. To cut a long story short, my baby was a few weeks old and I caught a virus. It was horrendous, and night times had become a nightmare for me, to the point where I dreaded going to bed. My partner said he would sleep in the spare room. My temperature was fluctuating, and having someone in my bed made it so much worse. I was desperate. That night, I remember he went ahead and took the baby up for me. I sat on the sofa and prayed out loud to the angels, which is something I never do. I always talked to them in my head. I went to bed and fell asleep. To put this into context, the baby was about 3 weeks old, and I had been ill the whole time. At some point in the night, a lot of the angels filtered into my room and surrounded my bed. They were like hooded figures and didn't walk. They more floated and all bustled in. I knew they were talking, but I didn't know what they were saying. When I saw them, I immediately panicked about my baby. I looked over, and she had baby angels on her cot with her. They looked like the baby off fairy liquid commercials with curly blonde hair, like cherub babies, you see. They were stroking her hair, and as they did, they were creating golden sparkles, a bit like Rapunzel when she was brushing her hair. It was gorgeous. Then an angel started talking, and all the chat from the other angels stopped. I knew this was my angel instinctively, and he told me, and he stood at my left and appeared slightly bigger than the rest. He was in green and gold. He told me everything that was going to be fine and to ask my mom for help. He was quite funny. He made a joke about my mom. Then he instructed the other angels to leave, and they filtered out of my bedroom in exactly the same way. I woke up the next day and felt like the luckiest girl alive, but equally knew that not everyone was going to understand what had happened. I mean, it happened to me, and I still don't quite get it. What I will say is that from that day, things generally did start to improve. The next night, too, was weird energetically. It was like someone had given me a load of drugs. I remember being pumped. I laid on my bed with my baby girl staring at the stars almost all night. I had so much energy. Weird things started popping into my head, too. My dad died 6 years ago, and a memory from when I was a little girl came into my head. Something I knew had happened but hadn't thought about for 30 years, and it was such a tiny, funny memory, too. I called my mom in the morning to tell her about it, and she couldn't believe it. We had a bit of a chuckle over it. I felt like somebody was manually placing things into my consciousness. There were songs, too, there that were put in my head. Looking back on it now, my baby girl is 3 now, and I've commented before that she was the catalyst for so much in my life. I know it sounds awful, but for the first year or so, I used to feel that she had pretty much decimated my life. She's my third and brought absolute chaos. Now I can see she brought so much more needed life changes and spiritual awakenings. I was told that when she was a few months old that she was a natural born clairvoyant, but who knows? That's a pretty good one. I like that one. I asked for months as a teen for my guardian angel's name and had a dream that I met a man and he introduced himself as Uri. I clarified his name and he said yes. I spelled his name. He spelled it back. Uri means my light in Hebrew. I have lots more stories of being warned about things too, but that's a female voice. I was driving and started to fall asleep at the wheel. The first vision was that of a doily print angel holding a trumpet facing left, and the second time my eyes started to close, I see wings, but couldn't make out a body. The third time my eyes drifted, I started to go off the road, and a red comet appeared, starting at top right and down my car. It was centered at my right lane, and I was wide awake. I'm not sure who it was, but they saved my life that day. I was leaning on it possibly being Uriel, but not certain, and I don't know how to find out. I've had my name said really loudly in my head in a male voice. Scared the crap out of me. Also, when I was sleeping, 3 loud knocks on my front door, yet no one was there and no one else heard it. I was told both were angels. I use psychedelics for the sake of medication and have a ton of encounters with God, love, and the subconscious. The last time I tripped, I ended up in a giant infinite space. It was dark, but I was surrounded by a ton of these giant columns that honestly looked like servers, but with eyes on them. I knew somehow they resembled God, and I had a brief moment with him. Later on, I looked up a bunch of symbolism, which led me to the Eye of Horus and a wealth of other Egyptian symbols and their meanings, so I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if it was an angel or what, but several years back I was in my bed and I felt super anxious. I couldn't sleep and every one of my senses was in overdrive, so I prayed for peace harder than I've ever prayed for anything in my life. Within minutes, this overwhelming sense of peace and security just completely enveloped me. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. I felt all of this coming in waves from a certain corner of my room, almost like something was standing there, pushing it all towards me. I sat and enjoyed the feeling for a few moments, then thanked whatever helped me, laid down, and immediately fell asleep. I firmly believe that presence stayed in my room, keeping watch that night. I love all of these stories. To make a long story short, I've seen what I think are my spirit guides and felt their touch. It scared the shit out of me, laugh out loud. I felt their presence one night, as I often do, and I asked them to give me undeniable proof of their existence. Don't ask me why, as I knew they did. They appeared to me seconds later as these beautiful, hard-to-describe things. They were sparkly, almost iridescent, pastel, glitter, rainbow blob-type sparkly things that moved in mid-air, changing shape ever so slightly, just suspended and sparkling in the air. They were about the size of a paper bag, and I knew before they floated over to me that they had a consciousness. They hovered over the foot of my bed when I called them. Then I promptly got scared, freaked out, and turned on the lights, and denied that what I had seen was real. I was taking it in, sad they seemed to be gone, but questioning what I had seen. I had the audacity to ask one more time for proof that I just couldn't deny no matter what, and almost immediately the guide, with a sense of humor, I know it was him, firmly, undeniably, and quite dramatically, but non-threateningly, grabbed my leg. I was shocked, screamed out loud, then cried, happy they were still around. Crazy laughing, but told him, okay, I can't deny that. Their guides lounged around for a while and played with my cats, leading them to zip around my house, up and down, back and forth along the furniture and walls as they chased something I couldn't see. My cat Timmy got in a weird position at the corner of my bed and was balancing on his hind legs and stretching up to fanatically bat at something in the corner of the room when my husband came in. He knew something was up right away. We talked about how we could almost picture a tall, smiling man standing in the corner, teasing Timmy with a piece of string just out of his reach. They still play with the cats once in a while, and I haven't seen the shimmery blobs again, although when I started to describe them to my 12-year-old son, he stopped me and finished describing it, just as I remembered. He has gifts, but shuts them down for now. My second story, I know without a doubt, was angels. I woke up one morning to the purest, most beautiful chorus of heavenly music I've ever heard. It woke me up out of my sleep, and it was loud right above my head. So it filled me with a bright melody from the inside out. It was so loud and pure, but it didn't hurt my ears. It's like it was pouring from heaven down above down onto me. It was so beautiful I was crying. I didn't want it to end. I have no idea how long it lasted. Tried so hard to put a memory to the melody into my memory right afterwards, but I quickly forgot what it sounded like. All I remember is knowing without a doubt that I had heard angels singing, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. I felt very lucky and blessed to have experienced it. My story wasn't directly me seeing them, but I was told about them. I worked at the Yellow Tag electronics store 10 years ago. I was in the cameras area helping when I see a woman look lost. I approached her and she seemed really skittish, so I asked her if I could help her. She said she rarely leaves the house, but she was interested in a camera. Didn't know which one yet. I did my usual probing so we could figure out which camera would work for her. And I'm talking and make a joke. She looks directly at me and said that my mom has a very contagious laugh. I froze. My mom died at that time 5 years ago. I didn't say anything, and she continued to kind of giggle. Her laugh was so contagious. She's always with you, you know. And tears just streamed down my face. She said she hardly leaves the house because she can pick up on energies, people, angels, and it's hard to tune them out in crowded places. She said I had a few angels around me and mentioned Michael, as well as my mom, as she pointed around. It did get busy in the store, and she looked incredibly overwhelmed. She said she needed to go out, but I'm glad she came back out because she got to talk to me. She left as quickly as she came in. To this day, I still don't know what to think about that, but I never forgot it. When I was younger, I was walking at home. I was walking at night to go home. I noticed a car circling around and the mail driver was following me. I was so scared I didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, a homeless-looking lady appeared out of nowhere. I spoke to her and asked if she could walk with me because I felt so frightened. She said, "Let's go," and walked towards the KFC store. She took me and told me to wait inside while she confronted the guy waiting outside. She talked to the guy, and he left. She went back in, told me and the store manager that she had already warned the guy they had called the cops. That was why he left. A couple went into the store, and she asked them if they could drive me home. I got home safely. I never saw the lady again. To this day, I always believed that was my guardian angel appearing as human to protect me from harm. I was laying in bed meditating and praying to Archangel Michael when the shape of wings appeared and stretched from wall to wall glowing. There was no figure where the body would be, just what looked like the heat you'd see off of a mirage. I had an immense feeling of safety and love that was so overwhelming that my eyes instantly began to stream with tears. This happened about 2 years ago. To this day, I can see it, feel it so vividly. I went to a clairvoyant shortly after the experience, and without any prior knowledge, she told me I'm being watched over by Archangel Michael. My jaw hit the floor and also made me more confident in my experience. When I was balancing my crown chakra, I accidentally viewed Jesus. At first, he looked like a white man who had a beard, a mustache, and long brown hair. I knew it was him just in my imagination. So his appearance changed. He then had red eyes, white hair, pale skin, and a double-edged sword coming out of his mouth. I tested him just like the Bible says to test spirits. He admitted that he was Jesus Christ, and he said my name directly. In a later viewing, I asked him where do all the good angels in the Bibles come from. He told me to remote view one of these angels. So I visualized my Bible, which was at home at the time, and I visualized an angel in my mind. Then I viewed a planet I don't know what the location of. It was very rough, snow-covered mountain, kind of like Switzerland, but without the green valleys. After that, I viewed the surface of the planet in between two of the mountains. I saw what looked like people, but they had elongated skulls, just like the ones Forrester, is investigating in South America, and none of them had wings. In all seriousness, though, I am not a Christian, and since I have no means to verify if any of this that I was viewing in these sessions were real, I'll take it with a grain of salt. I didn't have the experience, but my mom swears she met an angel. She had a friend who ended up in the hospital with a terminal illness and had been sad and putting off visiting her, so of course felt guilty she hadn't visited too. She was at work in a casino and had a person approach her and tell her that she needed to go visit this friend. The friend does not have much time left. Mom did go visit her friend and asked if there was a family member or friend that had contact her. The hospitalized friend was confused and didn't know what she was talking about. She couldn't think of anyone that fit the description my mom gave. My mom's friend died within a couple of days of that, and Mom wouldn't have gotten those last few moments with her if it weren't for that person. Identity unknown. My mom believes it was an angel. Not me personally, but my mom did when she was a kid. She said she was staying at her grandma's house and had to sleep in the front room. She said she was so scared, to the point of almost panicking. Then she said a light started glowing at the end of the couch where her feet were, and she saw the light being rise up. She said when she saw it, she wasn't scared anymore. A feeling of calm washed over her, and she fell asleep from then on. She wasn't scared to sleep there. My mom swears it was an angel letting her know that she was safe. I once saw something that was pure light with other details but had gigantic wings. I don't know if this counts, but when I was having a terrible time with sleep paralysis and succubi, I called out to Archangel Michael and saw two wings covering me like protecting me. Rarely suffer any more from that. However, last night I did have a dream of a demon again. It was very vivid. I don't know if this counts, but one time I was reading a book about angels and got really emotional. I remember reading about seeing feathers, statues, and anything related to angels are a sign that they are watching over you. I started texting my boyfriend after, and the word autocorrects to halo. I lost it. When I was 14, I almost got kidnapped. I was walking and an old guy asked me a question, pointing to a piece of paper. Next thing I knew, I was in his apartment. There was loud music, and I saw him walk into a room in the back with another guy. I ran to the door and somehow got it to unlock and ran to the first floor, then outside, and the old guy was chasing me. The streets were empty. It was past midnight on a weekday. All of a sudden, a taxi passed by right in front of me, and I opened the door and jumped in, yelling to lock the doors and not to let the old guy in. He was trying to get in. I cried all the way home, telling him to take care of his daughter, daughters, nieces, etc. To me, he was my angel. The apartment I was taken to was in a dangerous area, and that taxi was the only car I saw while running away. Not an angel so much, but my animal spirit guide. I met him during a group session while on a course. There were 20-ish people in the course, and the guy sitting next to me had exactly the same experience as me. We both met a wolf, described in exactly the same way with the same name. He went before me, and he described his experiences, and they couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially when he said the name. It was a very profound experience for me. I had a few incredible encounters. One, back in my 20s when I attended bar and was partying a lot, not taking care of myself well. I had come home from closing down a neighborhood bar drinking with friends. I came home late and my mom was up. She and I talked and made sandwiches, and then I ate in her room while watching TV. She had fallen asleep, and it was nearly 3 a.m. As soon as 3 a.m. on the dot hit, I could feel the energy in the room change and grow dense. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I knew something was happening. Immediately, my mom in her sleep began to speak out loud, forcefully saying, "No, you can't have her." I had goosebumps as my mom was talking aloud to something. Then she began praying Our Father prayer out loud. I was frozen with fear. About halfway through the prayer, I began to finish the rest of the prayer with her as I thought she might be under some sort of spiritual attack. After we said Amen together, she fell silent and looked peaceful in her sleep. I immediately shook her awake and asked her incredulously if she remembered what had just happened. She said nonchalantly and sleepily that she was dreaming and had a small demon, seeing being with red glowing eyes that was crouched down in darkness in the open closet door. She said it wanted my soul, and she said, "No, you can't have her." Then she said she had a sword of light and was fighting it off. Then suddenly I came in with my sword of light, and we were fighting side by side. We managed to fight it off, and it disappeared. I told her what happened in real life, outside of her dream, and it gave us both chills. Not to mention that immediately after this episode, my friend, who was highly intuitive, called me out of the blue just moments later to ask if I was all right, that she had a bad feeling and was urged to check on me. I told her my story, and we all just sat in disbelief that this thing had occurred. It always reminds me of the scriptures, maybe Ephesians, about taking up the sword and the shield of light against the evil. It gives me chills. 2. A few years later, I was returning to university to complete my degree. I had an early morning class, and I always ran late, as I used to work late night hours. I was rushing around in a flurry trying to gather my book bag and leave my two-story apartment in time. I locked the doors and began to hurry down the stairs. I was wearing wide-legged chino-style jeans and kitten heels, and occasionally the heel would catch my jeans. As I rushed down the staircase, I got about 3 or 4 steps down this flight of like 25 stairs, and my heels catching my jeans, and I tripped and began to fall face first down the staircase. There was a moment when the fear factor set in, and it was as if freezing in the moment. I knew I was going to die, and a flash, a foreshadowing image of myself laying broken at the bottom of the staircase. But then, suddenly out of nowhere, I felt a set of hands on my chest, like the feeling of when you're trying to force two magnets together that it just won't magnetize. And I shit you not, I was pushed back into the perfect place on the 4th step with both of my feet grounded. Then I heard a booming voice clearly say, the voice came from my head, heart, and ears all at once, "Slow down." It wasn't mean, but gentle and authoritative. I took a moment to compose myself and sort of telepathically said, "Yep, you're right, and I will." Then I held onto the stairrail and slowly walked down the steps timidly, one by one, like a child learning for the first time. As I drove to school, I drove under the speed limit and was late to class, but I was alive. I remember praying in the car, thanking God for the angels for saving me from that deadly image of my altered reality. I remember this like it was yesterday, and it reinforces the notion that I have more work to be done here on Earth, and that wasn't my time. But yeah, it was incredible. 3. This next experience was equally memorable. I had moved to a different state and away from home for the first time just before my 30s. In this new state, I hadn't prepared for another job and was jobless for a few months. I underwent what it was like to call the dark night of my soul, as I fell into a deep depression. During this time, though, I had just started a new job. I was still unhappy and feeling depressed. It was my day off, and I was trying to chill and enjoy my morning. I lived on the 2nd floor of the 3rd floor apartment, and the upstairs neighbors were constantly thudding around. I had complained to the apartment managers a few times, but that morning I had it. I decided I would use my phone to record the noises so I could provide proof for the managers. I hadn't been recording long, when less than a minute, when a bright, engulfing light caught my eye from the left of my living room and crossed right in front of my camera. In my mind, I screamed, "What the fuck is that?" and I stopped recording as I realized I might have caught this on camera. Sure enough, I replayed my recording, and it was at the 50-second mark. There it was, undisputedly, a bright white orb with plasma trailing in my recording. If I hadn't caught it on film, I probably would have doubted myself that it ever really happened. I gave the video to one of my friends who was a Reiki master, and he said it was an ascended master that was specifically showing up in my time of need to remind me that I'm not alone. I didn't know what an ascended matter was at the time, but after talking to the Reiki master, he explained that I was experiencing, and all the symptoms of the depression, etc., were actually signs of my awakened or ascension. All of my life, I believed in ghosts and angels and other dimensions, but this was straight proof that just because we can't see something with the naked eye, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Ever since then, I felt safer and have always known I'm protected, when I'm going to be okay no matter what life throws at me. There's more, but these are the ones that really stand out to me. But yeah, I'm a believer. So we're going to end that one there. Thank you for listening and watching. Hope you enjoyed these ones, these little stories here. I know I do. But if you don't mind, like the video if you liked it. If you don't like it, then you don't have to like it. Leave a comment. Maybe tell somebody else about this channel. Subscribe, whatever. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Bye.